Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, understanding the Islamic threat. What an honor to have with us tonight John Guandolo, a former FBI agent, a combat veteran Marine, and now the president of UnderstandingTheThreat.com. John, what an honor and a privilege to have you on the Glazov Gang.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, John. And before we move forward, I just want to thank our guardian angel and this wonderful woman that's on the planet, Amy Meck, for bringing us together. So thank you, Amy. Let's talk about what just happened in Manchester and your perspective on it.
There are several lessons to come out of this. And I want to start out by saying in 2009, I was in the UK and for a number of events, and I met with several of the leaders over there. And one of the things I shared with them is my professional opinion back then was that the UK was finished because I did not see anyone inside the leadership class in Britain that was willing to deal with this threat in the way it needed to be dealt with. And we were actually, myself and a couple of people that I was with, we were taken into areas of East London that quite frankly looked just like Islamabad. And I've been to Islamabad, Pakistan, and that's what it looked like. And this is, that's 8 years ago. And so what we're seeing, especially in Manchester, a place in England that the British government brought in jihadis under the guise of, helping them out and relocating them. And over the last 10 to 15 years, they have publicly demonstrated in Manchester calling for jihad against Britain. And there's been no action by the government other than to protect and appease them. And now you get this. And not only this, you get a bombing by a young man who's a Hafiz. He's memorized the Quran, was a devout Muslim. His father's a pillar at the mosque and in the Islamic community, which is exactly what we have seen in the United States and places like Orlando and elsewhere, where the community knows this is going on. And nobody says a word. And now you have arrests tonight of the family because they all knew this was going on and they didn't say a word. And the question is why? And all of these things we're seeing are absolute they're consistent with Islamic teachings, with the Quran and the Hadith, the example of the Prophet Muhammad. And so until we recognize and are willing to talk about the fact that at the core of what we're seeing around the globe is Islam and deal with it from an honest perspective, then we can't discuss realistic solutions to the problem.
Absolutely, John. And it looks like the left has handed out this template that's just repeated every time by our leaders or most of our leaders and by the media, because we're seeing it all over again. Oh, the media and in the UK, we've got these politicians that are worried that Islamophobia might come from this. And, this has nothing to do with Islam. It seems like it's just Stockholm syndrome over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Jamie. But it certainly is a psychotic disconnect from reality. Yeah. The reality is 100% of the enemy that we're facing, whether it's in the United States or in Canada, in Europe, or on the battlefields in the Middle East or in Africa. 100% of these people say we are Muslims waging jihad in the cause of Allah in order to establish an Islamic State under Sharia. From a war-fighting perspective, the United States, our warfighting doctrine says that is where you begin a real analysis of the enemy. And since 9/11, we have not done that. We have not looked at Sharia, which is not only what they say they seek to impose, it's the blueprint for how they fight wars, and it's how they communicate. And without transitioning too far, this is why, for instance, or as an example, last week, when the Saudi king in Saudi Arabia with the President of the United States gave a speech, if we understood what that speech means when we translate the English translation into English through the filter of Sharia, they are actually telling us exactly what they're doing. But if you don't know Sharia, then you can't understand what it is they're doing.
Hey, thank you for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel right down here if you're not already subscribed. If you want to see more of our UTT videos, just click here or here and sign up for our newsletter and join us. Let's put freedom back on the offensive where it belongs.